So why do we do the things we do? You ever wonder that? Why one person can do something just awful and another person can perform an act of incredible heroism? Well, today we're diving deep into Robert Sapolsky's amazing book, Behave, to try and explain the biology behind our very best and our absolute worst behaviors. Let's just kick things off with this really fascinating paradox. We say we hate violence, right? But we celebrate it all the time. I mean, think about it. The crowd goes wild for a knockout punch in a boxing match, we cheer when the action hero goes on a rampage, and we even use it in our everyday language. We fight for causes and rally the troops at work. So what is going on? Sapolsky's point is that it's all about context. And this is the core idea of the whole book. No single thing ever causes a behavior. It's not that simple. Instead, every single thing we do is just the final domino in a long chain of events. So to really get why someone did something, whether it's pulling a trigger or, extending a helping hand, we have to go back in time and peel back all the layers.
And here's our roadmap for this little journey. We're going to start right at the instant a behavior happens. And then we're going to zoom out. We'll go from the brain's split-second decision, to the hormones that were floating around, to the lifetime of experiences that wired that brain, and all the way back to the evolution that shaped us as a species.
Okay, let's dive right in. What is actually happening inside our skulls in that one critical second right before we act? In that 1 second, it's all about neurobiology. The brain is like the ultimate funnel, where literally everything, our genes, our culture, what we ate for breakfast, it all comes together to produce one single action. And in that moment, there are two really key parts of the brain having a very important chat.
And really, it all boils down to the tension between these two. On one side, you've got the amygdala. It's ancient, it's super fast, and it handles things like fear and aggression. It's kind of like your brain's panic button. And on the other side, you have the frontal cortex. Think of it as the brain's CEO. It's all about logic, context, and reining in the amygdala, telling it, whoa, hold on, maybe let's not flip the table. Fun fact, this part of your brain isn't fully baked until you're in your mid-20s, which, yeah, that explains a lot, doesn't it?
Okay, so the brain gives the final command, but it doesn't just come up with this stuff out of nowhere. Let's zoom out just a little bit. What was going on in the minutes, hours, or even days before the action that might have nudged the brain in one direction over another?
You see, it turns out our brains are constantly being influenced by these invisible forces, little chemical nudges and sensory signals from the world around us that are always tuning our responses. Now, this slide is great because it busts some huge myths. Take testosterone. It doesn't magically create aggression out of thin air. Think of it more like a volume knob. It just turns up the aggression that's already there. And oxytocin, everyone calls it the cuddle hormone, but it's more complicated. It makes us more loving and trusting toward our in-group, our us, but it can actually make us more defensive and even hostile toward outsiders, the them. So hormones aren't puppet masters, but they are absolutely setting the stage. And it's not just what's going on inside us. The outside world is constantly sending our brains these subtle little messages. A nasty smell can actually make people a bit more judgmental. A quick flash of a scary image can prime us to react more aggressively. These cues are whispering directly to our amygdala and our frontal cortex. And most of the time, we don't even know what's happening. All right, so we've covered the seconds and the days before an act. Now, let's pull the camera way back and look at the scale of an entire lifetime. How has everything you've ever been through shaped the person you are right now? This, right here, is one of the most incredible ideas in all of science: neuroplasticity. Your brain is not a fixed, static thing. It is constantly changing. Every single thing you experience, whether it's trauma, learning a new skill, falling in love, it physically rewires your brain. It literally grows new connections and trims away old ones. So the you that you are today is neurologically a different person than you were yesterday. Your life story is physically written into your brain.
And here's how that wiring happens. First, your childhood and your teen years are this huge construction project for your frontal cortex, where it's learning all the rules about empathy and how to be a social human. Then you've got culture, the values you're raised with. It shapes your fundamental ideas of right and wrong and who counts as an us or a them. And finally, your environment. Growing up in a world of stress and scarcity versus one of safety and abundance, that sets your brain's default settings for things like trust and aggression. It all gets wired in there, year after year. So, after this whole journey from 1 second all the way back to a lifetime of influences, what's the big answer? Why do we do the things we do? And the answer, maybe the most important takeaway, is that there is no single answer. It's never ever just the gene for this or the brain part for that. It is never that simple.
The best way to put it, in Sapolsky's own words, is just, it's complicated. Any behavior, whether it's good, bad, or somewhere in between, is the sum total of everything that came before, from a neuron firing to the hormones in your system to the culture you were born into, all the way back to millions of years of evolution.
Now, this is a really crucial point. Understanding all of this, it doesn't excuse bad behavior, but it does explain it. And shifting our whole mindset from one of just blame and punishment to one of genuine understanding, well, that has huge consequences for everything, from our justice system to how we treat each other every single day.
And that brings us to one final, huge, mind-bending question. If every single action we take is the end result of this gigantic biological chain reaction, a process that started eons before we were even born, then how much room does that really leave for what we like to call free will? Now that's something to chew on.